Welcome to Painted Haint Podcast. Tonight we are going to be continuing celebrating Summerween with a book and a movie combo. So we're going to be talking about Psycho. So this is actually my first time reading the book and seeing the movie simultaneously, and this movie is a doozy. Like, I couldn't think of a better word, so I just, pulled something old school out of my bag and said doozy. So Psycho is the boy mom phenomenon. So if you know what the boy mom is, it's like, oh, I just love my son, oh my god, he's my night and day, and he's like basically my husband. This book and movie is that personified, along with a healthy dose of incel, like incelery. And I was reading the book and watching the movie, and I'm thinking to myself, Norman Bates would have been ripe for the Tater Tot Army or the Fresh and Fitties. So where do I begin with this novel and this movie? It's one of those works that even if you know the story or don't, it's still a delicious read and watch. Like, it still kept me on my toes, like even to the point where my dad normally around that time of night that I was watching it, he's like watching Star Trek reruns, and even he came and sat down and was like, oh shit. So this movie / novel goes hard. Like, it turns up real quick. So both Hitchcock, who did the movie, Alfred Hitchcock that is, and Robert Bloch, who would do the book, in their respective versions, show up and show out. Oh my god. Like, I'm so excited to tell y'all about this. But let's get to the plot. Excuse me. Psycho tells the story of Mary Crane, a woman who steals $40,000, which is a lot of money back then, and honestly it's still a lot of money, from her job so she can start a life with her boyfriend Sam Loomis. So after she makes her getaway, she ends up at a remote motel called the Bates Motel, and it's so remote that it's off a side road. And the reason it's remote is because they have recently built a new interstate or new highway, and they are off the beaten path. So you already know, it's not cool. So this is where she will meet Norman Bates, who lives there with his overbearing mother. I put mom, but listen, I don't want her coming for me. And right off the bat, there is something up with Norman. He's into taxidermy. He's awkward to a fault. He's, as my mom, who is a retired teacher, would say, not socialized very well, especially with women. And he loses his ever-loving shit when Mary suggests that Mama Bates be put in a home or mental hospital over dinner after she hears her just absolutely going in on Norman and I'm Norman ain't shit and all this. So he also has a very telling quote in the movie during this conversation, and this is not in the book, but he says, a boy's best friend is his mother. That's not true. That should not be true. So Mary Crane has an excellent poker face in the movie and I would say in the book too. But in her head she's like, what the fuck? What is that? Did she really say that shit? Okay. So she finishes dinner with Norman and decides she better go back and return the money and get her life together. And she's excited, in both iterations, you could say, of this work, she's super excited because now she's like, I've talked to this weirdo and I do not have problems, so let me go on back and going back down to Texas, which is where she was from, and let me get my life together. So let me also remind you that this is in the first few chapters of the novel, so we've already got the lay of the land. So remember this. So Mary goes into her room and decides to take a shower, and she's excited because she's going back home. She's going to link up with Sam, and things are going to be better. Actually, in the movie, her and Sam are living in the same city, but sorry about that. shoot. But in in the movie, like I said, they live in the book rather. They are living in different towns. So she's gonna, like I said, she's gonna link up with Sam. Everything is gonna be what it's gonna be. So while she's doing quiet, possibly one of the best things in the world when you're ready for a night of rest and you're getting your life together, Norman's mother comes in and stabs her to death. So the famous, the famous scene with the knife and the shrieking violence, that is that scene, and it's brutal. Like, it is a brutal scene, like, for 1960. And it honestly caught me off guard. Like, I thought that happened later in the movie, but no. Oh, and by the way, Norman is also a voyeur, so he's like into spying on people, and he spies on her while she's in the shower. Gross. So, like I said, the movie is both the movie and the book are brutal, showing this scene and also showing how creepy Norman is. So, after Norman's mother has murdered Mary Crane, Norman flips out and gets rid of everything. The car, the body, all the things. He puts the car in a swamp on the property, and I think he puts Mary in the swamp. Yeah, he puts Mary in the swamp as well. So, at the same time, so when all this has happened, Mary's sister Lila, along with the police, are looking for her because she's got this money that's, it's been stolen. So Norman and his mother are pretty much screwed at this point. And, technically his mother is screwed, but Norman feels obligated to cover for her because, this is mommy. And cover he does with Detective Arbogast. So Detective Arbogast is this character that comes in, and he is responsible for finding the money and finding Mary Crane as well, because he works for, I think it's like a firm or something that she works for, and so he is there to find her, get the money back, probably put Mary in jail. I don't know. So he's very defensive, rather, not Detective Arbogast, but Norman, of course, is very defensive of his mother and does not want her interrogated for obvious reasons. But Detective Arbogast knows that something is up, and so he follows his nose. He's a detective, and he gets it the same way that Mary gets it. He gets knifed, and then he falls downstairs. So it's like adding insult to, like, injury. So Sam and Lila go to the sheriff of the town, where they found out that Arbogast could not have gone to see Mama Bates because, wait for it, she has been dead for 10 years due to strychnine poisoning. And it wasn't like, I accidentally took strychnine. Nope. Mama Bates had a lover who she found out was married, and because of that, she poisoned him. So Sam and Lila have this oh shit moment and go up to the motel because they're like, what? And they actually pose as a couple and finish off where Arbogast started. So it gets wild again. Like, okay, so in the book, they pose as a couple in the book as well. But in the book, it's Lila that goes into the house, and so I didn't say this in the beginning, but this house is, like, creepy. Like, I'm going to put a picture up on the screen, of course, but this house is, like, on some next level spooky-ish. And she ends up finding Norman's room, and it's creepy because it's, like, all these, like, old-school toys, and he sleeps in there, so he's, like, in this Arrested Development type thing. Very much like what I talked about a couple of weeks ago with Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And then she finds his mother's room, and it is untouched. And it's so untouched that, like, her bed sheets and stuff are dry rotted. Like, it's gross. So, like I said, they go in, and they go to, they're investigating. And Lila discovers Mama Bates in the basement / fruit cellar. And we're coming in for another crazy, 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 because Mama Bates is a skeleton. Or I wouldn't even say skeleton. She's more like this woman is dead. So Lila flips the out. Norman gets arrested at the end of the story. But wait, hold up. Let me go back for a little second right there. So when Lila finds Mama Bates, excuse me, Mama Bates's body, she's like, freaking out, and she does not hear Norman coming down, dressed as his mother. He's gotten his mother's clothes, and he tries to attack Lila. But, of course, like I was getting ready to say, Norman gets arrested, and that's the end of the story proper. But here's the twist. So there's more of a twist. It's so many twists and turns. I mean, it's like 3 or 4 twists and turns in this. But Norman was the one that killed his mother and her lover. His last name was Constantine. And he had internalized his mother. And basically, he's mentally ill. I think he would have, he's schizophrenic. He would be schizophrenic. But that's not all, though. So, this is based off a true story. And it has spawned so many different movies, so many different movie characters and movies. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think not the Hills Have Eyes. Good Lord. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Buffalo Bill and what was that? The Silence of the Lambs. He's based off of this, and then this real character is in turn whom Norman Bates is based off of. So, ever heard of Ed Gein? The Butcher of Plainfield, Wisconsin. So if you haven't, here is a crash course of Ed Gein. So Gein was a serial killer who, like Norman Bates, had an overbearing mother, Augusta Bates, good Lord, Augusta Gein. She basically thought all women except herself were loose and like hoes, and that she was protecting him from said women. So both Norman and Gein, Norman and Ed, would embody their mothers. Although Gein did it a little bit more graphically. So Norman dressed in her clothes while Gein dressed in women's clothes and women's body parts. So, yeah, I said body parts. A skin suit. Literally a skin suit. It's gross. I was listening to Bailey Sarian and I looked up, oh God, why did I do this? The infamous nipple belt for Ed Gein. That's nasty, bro. And of course, both would senselessly murder women because of what their mothers had taught them about women. And also to a point, to a point both of them wanted to be close to their deceased mothers. So both also lived in remote old homes. The home in the book and the movie is like this old school, like 19th century, like late 19th, turn 20th century home. Ed Gein's home was this like lonely old farmhouse that Augusta had bought in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin. So both of them were like these creepy old houses and so this is not a coincidence, with Norman coming from Ed Gein, as Robert Bloch based the character of Norman Bates off of Ed Gein in part. So there you have it. That was a Psycho, both the book and the movie. And even with the spoilers I've given you, I suggest that you watch it or read it or both, as I did, as part of your knocking the summer heat off festivities, your Summerween festivities. Next week, I am going to take a break from talking about what to read and tell you about what to watch. So I got Paramount Plus, and I have been watching Are You Afraid of the Dark like clockwork while working on my Halloween costume, since Summerween is my time to work on my costumes. So if you liked this, please like, subscribe, share, and leave a positive comment. Those really help the channel, and hated Haint. And yeah, good night. Bye.